Mais um.
Josh, and
Dizem.
when Jeffrey Epstein died, he was worth a staggering $600
Este diz, who gets all Jeffrey Epstein's money after his death?
million. Today on the infographic show, we're revealing exactly where all that money ended up. Just 2 days before he died in federal jail, Epstein signed a trust that laid out who would get pieces of his estate and fortune. The 32-page document, called the 1953 Trust, stayed under wraps for years. But now, thanks to the recent release of a bunch of the Epstein files, the public gets to see it. While large parts of the document have been redacted, including the names of some beneficiaries, other sections remain untouched. Epstein set aside $1 million each for at least 10 people in the 1953 Trust. These people included Peter Saint-Omer, Pierre Jules, Germaine Rouen, Daphne Wallace, Una Pascal, and Cécile Dijon. For most of them, there is almost nothing publicly available, no background, and no known connection to Epstein. But we do know a little bit about at least one of them, Cécile Dijon. She was the First Lady of the U.S. Virgin Islands from 2007 to 2015, while her husband, Jean Dijon, served as the governor. According to lawsuits, she was paid by Epstein to help with various bureaucratic and regulatory matters. Released emails even showed that Epstein even covered university and tuition fees for her children. Dijon denies any wrongdoing. Epstein left $2 million to one woman whose name has been redacted. Two other people also got $2 million, Erica Kellerhalls and Bryce Gordon. Again, neither are well known, but there are a few interesting pieces of information about them online. A Vanity Fair report explains that Erica Kellerhalls runs a Virgin Islands law firm that was put in charge of Epstein's estate. Her connection to Epstein goes back at least as far as 2011, when she helped transfer ownership of billionaire Leslie Wexner's New York City mansion to an entity Epstein controlled. She also held key positions in his charitable organizations, serving as Secretary and Treasurer of Gratitude America and as Secretary, Treasurer, and Trustee of the J. Epstein Virgin Islands Foundation. On Epstein's last will and testament. Bryce Gordon, meanwhile, is a former New Zealand Defense Force member who reportedly helped to run Jeffrey Epstein's property empire, alongside his wife Karen Gordon. According to New Zealand media, the Gordons were two of Epstein's longest-serving staff members, initially helping to manage his New Mexico ranch. They then took charge of his private island resort on Little St. James, more commonly known as Epstein Island. Epstein intended to leave $3 million to each of the following: Bella Klein, Luciana A. Fontanilla Jr., Merwin de la Cruz, Simona Petrecki, Kathy Lindemann.
Porra, este homem distribuiu dinheiro, este homem distribuiu riqueza mesmo, fogo.
Even though Epstein left big sums to all these people, there's hardly any information about most of them.
Ninguém sabe quem
The
são.
only one who pops up with any kind of profile is Bella Klein. She's been mentioned in past media reports about Epstein, and according to outlets like the Daily Beast and the New York Post, she worked as one of his accountants in New York. Klein was subpoenaed back in 2020, with the Attorney General asking her to hand over various documents, records, and receipts related to payments made to women with connections to Epstein. Just like many of the other people in these lower-tier beneficiary spots, there's no evidence or even any suggestion that Klein knew about Epstein's illegal activities or had anything to do with them. Epstein intended to leave $4 million to one person, David Rogers. He was one of the two pilots responsible for ferrying various peoples to and from Epstein Island. Reports show that Rogers worked for Epstein for several decades, from the early 1990s.
Mano, isto não parece um testamento, parece mais um pagamento a toda a gente. Olá, Vicente. Parece genuinamente um pagamento. Como é que estás, Travolta? Parece um pagamento que o gajo fez a toda a gente.
Right up until his death in 2019. Flying multiple aircraft owned by the trafficker, Rogers had worked with law enforcement several times and ended up being a really helpful witness in the Epstein investigation. He kept handwritten flight logs showing the trips that he'd made and who he'd flown over the years. These flight logs were used as evidence in the 2021 trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. They'd also helped to confirm the identities of some of the well-known people who visited Epstein Island, including the British Royal Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. A report in the British tabloid The Daily Mirror confirmed that the disgraced former prince was a passenger on Rogers' plane at least on 10 occasions. $5 million was reserved for some of the more important people in Epstein's life. They included Anne Rodriguez, Vladson Vieira Kotin, Emma and Edward Rod Larson, Martin Nowak, and Carolyn Lang. There is another person whose name has been redacted. Martin Nowak is the best known of this group. He is an Austrian-born professor of mathematics and biology at Harvard University, known for his work in the field of evolutionary dynamics. He's also held faculty positions at other institutions like Oxford University in the United Kingdom and Princeton in the US. According to reports, he had a close personal and financial relationship with Epstein for a number of years. In 2011, Nowak named and thanked Epstein in the preface of his book, Evolutionary Dynamics, Exploring the Equations of Life. He wrote, I thank Jeffrey Epstein for many ideas and for letting me participate in his passionate pursuit of knowledge in all its forms. Nowak came under investigation in 2021 after his connection to Epstein came to light. Since then, his sanctions have been lifted, and he is still on the Harvard faculty. His name also shows up a few times in the recently released Epstein files, including email exchanges between him, Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Nowak has not been accused of any crime, nor does he face any charges or claims of wrongdoing. Vladistin Vieira-Cotrin is a French-Brazilian who worked as Epstein's butler, driver, and cook, charged with managing his luxurious 8-bedroom apartment in Paris. Caroline Lang, meanwhile, is the daughter of the former French culture minister Jack Lang. She works as a film producer and told reporters she'd met Epstein through Woody Allen back in 2012. Emma and Edward Rod Larsen are believed to be the children of former Norwegian diplomat Terje Rod Larsen and current diplomat Mona Juul. Terje Rod Larsen has described Epstein as his best friend in the past. He resigned from his position as president of the International Peace Institute in 2020 when news of the links between the pair broke. Mona Juul, meanwhile, has been temporarily suspended, while Norwegian officials investigate her connections to Epstein more closely. 7 people were set to receive $10 million in Epstein's trust. 4 of them are still unknown.
É que isto ainda por cima, tipo, parece que o gajo disse assim, olhem, estas são as pessoas por ordem de guite que eu dei, estas são as pessoas que estão todas ligadas a mim e por ordem de importância e de pessoas que fizeram mais merda, está aqui as somas. As somas são maiores por grau de importância.
Their names have been redacted. 3, however, have been revealed to the public. They are Lawrence Paul Vysotsky Jr., Ghislaine Maxwell, and Mark Epstein. Vysotsky was the second of Epstein's main private jet pilots. According to multiple reports and court documents, he worked under Epstein for decades, flying helicopters, Gulfstream jets, and the infamous Boeing 727, nicknamed the Lolita Express. Like Rogers, Vysotsky has been a key piece of the puzzle for investigators, helping them track down Epstein's movements and figure out who was traveling to and from his island. Vysotsky was actually the first witness called to the stand during the 2021 trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. He admitted to flying several notable individuals on Epstein's planes over the years, including former U.S. President Bill Clinton, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and actors like Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. According to Vysotsky, the cockpit door always remained closed during the flights. While he did sometimes see young female passengers boarding the plane, he was not a witness to any illicit activities on board. Ghislaine Maxwell is well known for her close ties to Epstein, largely regarded as his right-hand woman. The British socialite reportedly met Epstein in the early 1990s and initially developed a romantic relationship with him. She later became one of his closest allies and companions all the way up until his death. She's been described by Epstein employees and associates as being in charge of household operations and serving as Epstein's number 2 when it comes to managing properties, staff, and logistics. She also is believed to have been a key facilitator in recruiting and grooming the victims of Epstein's abuse. She made the most of her socialite connections with various high-profile figures and elites to support and expand Epstein's illegal empire. She's believed to have had long-standing friendships with the likes of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. Maxwell was arrested in 2020, charged with multiple sexual...
Viram o que é que o Trump disse quando lhe falaram da Ghislaine Maxwell? Que ele disse, I wish them the best. I wish them the best. E o pessoal tipo, mas não é estranho de você estar a dizer a uma mulher que foi acusada destes crimes todos que lhe deseja o melhor? E ela diz, e ele diz, não pá, então eu realmente uma pessoa que perdeu o marido e não sei o quê, eu desejo-lhe melhor.
Trafficking and conspiracy offenses, and convicted in late 2021. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison and remains behind bars as of early 2026. Mark Epstein is Jeffrey Epstein's only sibling, a property developer based in New York City. Mark was born in 1954, a year after his brother. He initially worked as an artist before moving into real estate investment and served as the president of Jeffrey Epstein's company, J. Epstein & Co. He also owned and operated various other companies over the course of his career. He's been interviewed and investigated over the years due to his close familial ties with Jeffrey Epstein. However, no credible evidence has been found to suggest that Mark had any involvement with his brother's crimes. He says that while he knew his brother was involved with women who were, in his words, too young, he did not know anything about what Jeffrey had actually done until 2006, around the time police first started investigating him and the earliest accusations came to light. Epstein's trust specifically states that $10 million should not go directly to Mark, but should be held by him in a trust to be given to his children in the future. 3 more people were named in Epstein's 1953 trust, and they received the largest sums of all. The first is Richard Kahn, who was awarded $25 million. Kahn was Epstein's accountant for more than a decade, according to media reports. He managed various aspects of the sex trafficker's books and financial matters, and worked closely with his lawyer, Darren Indyke. someone who we'll hear more about very soon. Kahn was listed as the president of one of Epstein's nonprofit entities, Gratitude America, and named the co-executor of his estate in his 2019 will and testament. He's come under scrutiny and investigation, but no criminal charges have been filed against him. Kahn maintains that he was not aware of any abuse or trafficking, and that none of Epstein's victims had come to him for help. A whopping $50 million was pledged by Epstein to his former lawyer, Darren Indyke. According to reports, Indyke first met Epstein several decades ago while working at a small New York City law firm that was in charge of Epstein's real estate deals. After just a few years of practicing law, Indyke made Epstein his one and only client. He went on to help Epstein set up his corporate and personal base in the U.S. Virgin Islands and got deeply involved in almost every part of his business over the decades that followed. In return, Epstein treated Indyke generously. He covered his New York City apartment and paid millions of dollars for his services over the years. Indyke also had executive roles in several of Epstein's controlled entities, including nonprofits and corporate structures. He was named alongside Richard Kahn as one of the co-executors of Epstein's estate. As with Kahn, he faced no criminal charges. The person who stood to gain the largest part of Epstein's wealth was Karina Shuliak, Epstein's last known girlfriend. In his trust, Epstein left Shuliak $50 million, plus another $50 million meant to be set up as an annuity paid out over the rest of her life. He also promised her a lot of his property.
Foda-se, 50 milhões de anuidade. Que é isto? What?
A 33-carat diamond ring and a collection of loose diamonds. Born in Belarus, Shuliak reportedly moved to the U.S. around 2009 and trained as a dentist at Columbia University. She was said to have been in an 8 to 10-year relationship with Epstein up to the point of his arrest. She also reportedly was the last person to speak to Epstein over the phone before he died in prison. Reports also state that Epstein admitted contemplating marrying Shuliak at some stage, despite the fact that she was legally married to another woman, Jennifer Kalin, during a large part of their time together. As with other people named in the trust, Shuliak has come under intense media scrutiny, but there are no official claims that she was involved in Epstein's criminal activities. Even with the jaw-dropping 7, 8, and 9-figure sums in Epstein's trust, it's important to remember that none of the people mentioned are guaranteed to get any kind of money. One of Epstein's estate lawyers, Daniel Weiner, told reporters that no beneficiary will receive any money from that estate unless and until all creditors and claims on the estate have first been satisfied in full, including claims from women who suffered abuse at Mr. Epstein's hands. Even though Epstein was worth a staggering $600 million when he died, that number has dropped a lot since then, thanks to taxes, legal fees, and payouts to victims, including a huge $290 million settlement for some survivors, finalized in 2023. So there might not even be enough money left to cover all the payments that Epstein originally planned. Whatever is left could still go to the many victims of his crimes who are still pursuing legal action against him and his remaining associates. Now go check out what really happened to Jeffrey Epstein, or click on this video instead.
Saúde e sorte, como se costuma dizer, pá. Muito é bom. Every last penny should have been seized and dispersed to all known victims. Acho que sim. Verdade.